How can 1% of people control the entire world, specifically the American political system? This is the question that I get asked over and over and over. They call me foolish for believing that it's happening, that such a small group of people can control such a large entity, such a large movement. We're going to break this down today because it's a whole lot bigger of a problem than you might think.
The right wing has been excellent. Jared Wright, Christian nationalist influencer.
Global stability, millions and billions of taxpayer dollars. These are just a few of the things that are at risk right now because of this 1%. We see the entire American country, the country of the United States, at risk in the next 2 to 5 years if something does not change. We are sending all of our money to a foreign nation. We are sending all of our soldiers to fight for a foreign nation. So you tell me, how can 1% of the entire world control the world's greatest superpower, the biggest superpower? So where might you believe that this leads us back to? Most people say 1948, the beginning of the Christian Zionist movement, right? How can you have Christian Zionists if you don't have Israel yet? So 1948 must be the start. It goes back much further than that. Now, you may think that it was politicians behind it, that it was people behind it that were pushing for a certain agenda, and it was, but it was never politicians. Matter of fact, it really started with two people in the 19th century, in the 1800s, decades before Israel was ever created. John Nelson Darby and Old Schofield, we've talked about before. These are the two fathers of the idea of Christian Zionism, and it all leads up to a Bible that changes the entire outlook of the American nation. But that leads us into the craziest question is, how does this random British theology completely change the landscape and the outlook of the American country, the greatest country known to man? This leads me into the Schofield Reference Bible. Schofield Reference Bible has been fooling people for a very long time. You may wonder what it was. Well, this was Schofield actually writing down and publishing the ideas that were made somewhat popular by Darby. So he took these ideas and he took the English Bible and he wrote all of them down. He wrote it out and he changed a couple of verses around a little bit to make it seem more like we should be supporting a modern state of Israel. But what really separated this Bible from all of the other ones was the fact that within the margins was commentary, custom commentary written right there in the margins that was very, very Zionist in nature. Now you may think, oh, this was just spread, people preached it and then people believed it. No. It has a much darker history than that. It's not just being spread and people picking up on it. No. It was instituted by another. The Oxford University Press, very, very well acquainted with rich Jewish clans like the Rothschilds, the entire University of Oxford was. They're the ones that actually printed this. And some people actually claim that they funded Schofield in writing it, but they're the ones that mass-produced it. And it wasn't just say, oh, we have a Bible that you can buy. No, they mass-produced this and they handed them out to pastors that were going through seminary, to young people, to every single church camp that they could go to every single church. They said, we're going to hand this Bible out. We're going to hand this Bible out. We're going to hand this Bible out. This Bible that was specifically having commentary coming down it, saying, this is how you should believe. The idea that we have to orchestrate in the second coming of Christ, even that we have to make things happen, and part of that happens by supporting a nation state of Israel. Now you may be wondering about the backgrounds of this Oxford University Press and coming from Britain in and of itself. If you didn't know, the Rothschilds have been very active within Britain. At one point in time, there in the late 19th century, they actually bailed Britain out, the nation of Britain out, because Britain had no money. And in exchange for this, what did they get? Well, for one, they got to interbreed with the monarchs. They got to interbreed into the royal family. But the second thing they got was a favor for later. A favor to support this nation in 1948, whenever the time came that they needed Britain to do that. And if you look back at post-World War II history, Britain was a nation that did that. Britain was a nation that pushed for this harder than anybody, first and foremost. Winston Churchill was big on it. Winston Churchill is who bombed Germany to begin with. Days and days of bombings, and Germans were saying, no, we don't want war. This isn't what we want. Let's talk this out. But it didn't happen. So now, a Bible that was funded by those people and distributed by the same people, essentially, and handed out all across America and to the pastors that were going to be preaching, turned this idea from a political idea to a religious necessity all across America. But whenever we understand that this has happened, it raises an even darker question. What happens whenever the politicians realize they can ride this heretical theological wave all the way into office and stay there? What we see is a slow growth of the Christian Zionist legislator. We see them coming into office and they convolute these ideas, some very good and Christian in nature, but many very bad and Zionist in nature, to the point by where 1948 comes in. America is very Zionist. They're very pro-Israel already, all the way through this and the taking of land from Palestinian people. America was behind a lot of this as friends with Britain and is also now very Zionist in nature from a Bible that was beginning printing in the early 1900s and distributed, so that by the time that these kids had grown up to be of age of politics, that's what they wanted because they viewed it as a necessity. This has caused as a chokehold on American politics, where 1% of people, those people, now in modern times in a little bitty nation, have a very hard control of the American political system due to these Zionist beliefs being taught through a Bible and then integrated into politics into the modern times. But what happens maybe once modernity hits? And maybe people are free thinkers. Maybe people are starting to think. How do you ensure that these politicians don't go against you, that they don't back out on the deal? How do you ensure that they never see another thought process again? They always believe yours. The idea lies with black. It's not a big mystery that 1% of the population couldn't physically dominate an entire nation or even the political system. But what you can do is you can mentally dominate them. And that's exactly what we have in this nation right now. When it comes to the Epstein files, when it comes to what's going on worldwide and globally, Epstein ran this child sex ring in which he videotaped our elites and our politicians with children doing terrible things. But you may be wondering, well, why would he do this? Well, it wasn't on behalf of himself. It was on behalf of other people. So though he became the face of it, the most well-known portion of it, he wasn't doing it for himself. He was doing it on behalf of the people in control. And whenever a politician starts saying, well, maybe I'll go against this, I don't want to spend that much money over there, and that nation and the people funding this politician say, whoa, we're going to take our funding back. And also, what do you think about this video we found? What do you think that politician's going to do? Sadly, corruption sets in. They say, I have sinned, but I can't let this reach the public. My career would be over. I couldn't make any more money. I couldn't do anything. I'd be in prison. How does 1% of the population control an entire country? It starts with brainwashing, and it finishes with blackmail. Whenever you hold the politicians and the elites into this chokehold, into this corner, this blackmail corner, they're going to do what you want them to do. And that is exactly what's developed in this nation over the past century and a half. It's a slow process. It can't just happen like that. It has to slowly creep its way and interweave its way into every single thread of society. And that's exactly what has happened here. We know that typically they control the banks, including the bank and the Federal Reserve. We know how they have a chokehold on society and on propaganda pushed in Hollywood and things like that. But all of that is null and void at the ultimate goal of a nation over in the Middle East and its needs and its wants being taken care of. This nation specifically designed for one group of people and nobody else. You have to have the chokehold on the politicians. That is how you control an entire nation. And if we don't have more people speaking out soon, people like myself, people like Tucker Carlson, people like Nick Fuentes even, whether you like him or hate him, he speaks out on this issue because it doesn't just lie within Zionism, it is much more widespread than this. Whenever we speak out, we are able to upset the flow of the river in the direction that we're going, and we create a dam right in the way. And we're building dams the best we can to stop this in its tracks before it gets so far out of hand that we'll never be able to manage. We don't have much longer. We only have 2, 3, 4 years until this entire thing collapses. We're already broke. The citizens have no money. Nobody has any control other than the people we don't want to have control. And so if we don't speak out, this is going to get bad quickly. Luckily, more and more people are waking up, and I hope that you are. I hope this might have helped you wake up, or at least describe it to somebody else to wake them up. And if so, I'm Jared Wright, This is The Right Wing, and if you enjoyed this, hit the buttons down below. Hit the follow, the subscribe button, the notification bell, the like, all of them, because what I do pushes this agenda and this message and what needs to be heard to lots of people worldwide. But I can't do it without your support. I hope you have a great day.